So the second round of Paycheck Protection funding has been approved and the portal has been open for more than a week now for all borrowers and all lenders. But I know many of you are anxiously waiting on the edge of your seat for a response from the SBA or your lender as to what exactly is going on. Did I get approved? Is my business going to survive? What's going on? I mean, I can feel this anxiety. I've received tons of emails like, should I be worried? I haven't heard anything. So I wanted to compile all my inside information that I have through lending sources, through the SBA, and the news that I've seen come out regarding the first and second round of PPP funding in this most recent stimulus bill. Compile that all together, help quell your fears as to what's going on, and give explanations if you happen to receive any kind of delays. So starting off, the very first people to receive PPP loans were those who applied through minority institutions. They got to apply a week early. And I'm going to start off with this because it gives us a good idea as to what to expect for everyone else since they started the process a week early. And the overall sentiment from these institutions and these lenders is that the program is going quite well, especially compared to the first round of funding where we saw tons of issues and glitches and delays of months and months and months before some people received any funding. Compared to that, things are going amazingly. But we also have to remember that these very first applications were sent in when there was absolutely no backlog. So these very first few applications, there was only a few $1 billion worth of funding that was sent through, were sent to the SBA when there was really, nothing else to work on at that point. Then the next week comes along and we see the surge of applications. And this is when the systems really get tested. The SBA gets tested, lenders get tested. There's only just about 5,000 lenders, and there's an expected 3 to 5 million PPP loans to be processed. So there's a lot to do for the small amount of lenders and, of course, the SBA. So this is when things are really being tested. I have one quote here that might help quell your fears. It's from Mark Bowden. He's the president of Savings Bank of Walpole. He said, quote, "The process is going well. Last time the rules were being written during the process and there was a race to funds. Everyone has more experience this time around." And I also noticed an overwhelming number of these applicants are second draw loans, which isn't a huge surprise, but I saw a YMCA that was approved for $400,000 in its second draw, and a card company known as Tree Free Greeting that got approved for a big loan for their 18 employees. And both of those companies had their first draw loans already forgiven, just to top that off. And even though most of the applications this time around are for second draw loans, there's a ton of reports of small lenders working on much smaller loans this time around. There was a bank called Optus Bank that said that they helped someone on the phone for 30 minutes to apply for a $2,500 PPP loan. And this is a world of a difference from the first time around. And this brings up a good point. Some of you out there might be thinking, because I can't get a $150,000 PPP loan, I shouldn't even bother. I shouldn't try. Banks aren't going to accept me anyways. Maybe I tried the first time around and no bank would even process my application because it was only going to be $5,000 or something like that. I'm here to say the situation has flipped 180 this time around. The reason for the issue the first time around is the way that banks got paid. You might not like to hear this, but the incentives weren't there to help the smallest loans. Because banks were paid as a percentage of the total loan size, it really didn't make any financial sense for them to try and process all of these $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 loans when they could spend just about the same amount of time and process a $400,000 loan and get, 400 times the reward from processing that loan. But this time around, banks receive a flat rate for this small loan. So no matter what, they're going to receive this flat rate for processing and approving this loan. So the incentives have shifted and there's much more emphasis on getting small loans approved. So if you're at all worried, you should absolutely apply this time around. And I'll have a link in the description where you can apply online for that. But before we sing nothing but praise for the second round of PPP funding, we have to take a look at some of the bad and the ugly truth coming along with it as well, because it's not going perfectly. I mean, we have to be completely honest here. There are some system issues. So the American Bankers Association, they sent a letter to the SBA and the Treasury Department in which the president and the CEO, Rob Nichols, flagged a technical error with the online portal that lenders have to use to submit their PPP applications to the SBA. So lenders collect their applications, do their due diligence, collect paperwork, and then submit that to the SBA's E-Tran system. and there's an issue with that system that was flagged, a technical error. So with the wide array of technical bugs in the first time around, the SBA worked with a contractor to help develop an entirely new interface this time around. So the identified issue this time around is coming for those who are making a second draw loan, and for whatever reason, the status of forgiveness for their first draw loan is kicking back the application. Now, of course, this is a huge issue because in the stimulus bill, it says we do not need to be forgiven for the first round in order to receive a second round PPP loan. And the SBA has assured this, lenders have assured this. It shouldn't be an issue, but it's an issue in the system for whatever reason. It's a glitch, if you will. And because of this, a select group of people are going to be denied, but you'll want to look over your paperwork and see why exactly you were denied. If it was because you hadn't received forgiveness for your first round yet, that is an incorrect denial, a technical issue, and you just have to either contact your lender or reapply, and it shouldn't be an issue the second time around. And then on top of that issue, there's another issue that's appeared where lenders are receiving a high number of incorrect error messages when they send PPP loan applications through the portal to the SBA. So some of these error messages include incorrect limitations on loan amounts or insufficient paperwork. That actually happened to me. I got a notice that said I had insufficient paperwork, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, I've literally gone over the paperwork that's needed for the PPP and explained this to like 400,000 people. I swear this is the correct paperwork. So I had to call up my lender and I explained the situation, and they were like, yeah, you were one of the few that got this issue with the system glitch, and I just had to resubmit the application, and now we're good to go. So it happened to me. It can potentially happen to you, but you'll receive notice if it does happen to you. If you haven't received anything, chances are by now you're probably in the clear. And now some people are already receiving notices that they're good to go as well, but these are the few that somehow snuck in on the earliest group. My editor, for instance, he submitted for his first round loan last week, and he received an email from the SBA confirming his application was under review and who he'd be in contact with and when he can expect it. So be sure to check up on your applications if you're not hearing anything within a week. Don't worry if you're not hearing anything right now, but if it's Thursday, Friday of next week, and you're still not hearing anything, that's when you might want to reach out to a lender or see what exactly is going on. Now, if you were applied through Womply, I can help you out a little bit more because I'm much more familiar with the system. I received some information here. First, if you haven't received any notice from your lender beyond your initial application, don't worry. So I received notice that they are absolutely swamped. All lenders are just absolutely swamped, which of course isn't a huge surprise because they're doing all of this work in such a short period of time, and most people were ready for the day it opened, and then they just get swamped with new applications. So don't worry if you haven't received communication. It might just take a little while to process all these through the lenders and then through the SBA. And then second, the best way to get a status update right now is simply logging into the portal of the lender that you applied with. Now, I received 2 different PPP loans for 2 different businesses that I own, and both of those, there's an online portal that I can just log into and see the status. It's super easy. Both of them just say it's pending now, and yours will likely be the same if you log in and check that out as well. So overall, it's seeming like the second round of PPP funding is going so much better than the first round, but of course we're running into a few hiccups as millions of businesses are applying again and their systems are being tested to the absolute limits. So we're seeing some holdups here and there. Hopefully, since the software issues are just small patches, they can be fixed. I wish we could say the same for Cyberpunk 2077. That might just be a lost cause. But overall, don't worry if you haven't received any kind of confirmation from your lender yet, or if you haven't been approved yet. It might still take a week or two. Initially, we were told to expect 2 weeks, but with this influx, I wouldn't be very surprised if it was even 3 weeks out before we receive some actual confirmation that things are either approved or what exactly is going on. So that's going to do it for today's Paycheck Protection Status Update. I would just like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.